Hi, and welcome to this Dell Technologies seminar at the Women in Business Expo. My name is Jason Crawford, and with me is my colleague Andy Bone. What are we going to take a look at today, Andy?
Well, today we're going to go on a journey, and that journey is going to be all about how to work faster and smarter with some of the brand new technologies that are available to small businesses. But before we do that, what I'd like to do really is to sort of go back to the roots of small business. In fact, back to our own roots, back to Michael Dell's dorm room in 1984.
This is the story of the little room over the pizza place at 315 Chestnut Street, the modest first floor bedroom in Tallinn, Estonia, and the dusty basement at 1406 35th Street. It is the story of the old dining room table at 25th and Hoffman Avenue, the southbound bus barreling down I-95, and the second floor above the strip mall at Roble and El Camino.
This magic moment,
It is the story of where every great idea begins,
so different and so new.
where those with endless vision and an equal amount of audaciousness believed they had the power to do more, time and time again.
And then it happened.
At Dell, we're honored to be part of some of the world's great stories. Stories that began much the same way ours did, in a little dorm room, number 2713.
This magic moment.
So we've come a long way since those small beginnings in 1984. Obviously, Dell has grown as a company, and we're kind of a household name now. We have over 100,000 employees globally. And 2020 has presented some of the toughest challenges ever in our company's history. It's also presented challenges for us in our personal lives, and I'm sure you yourselves are experiencing some challenges that this year has brought us. We basically had to take our workforce overnight and make sure everyone could work from home. In fact, that's where Andy and I are just now. We're both in our homes. This isn't real, it is all fake. We've got a nice green screen behind us. I'm in Glasgow and Andy is in Lincoln. And it's definitely been one of the most challenging years for us. We normally would love to be at events doing face to face and chatting to you so that we could have a fuller conversation. But today, obviously, we will try and have a little bit of engagement at the end of the session. So if you do have questions that come up, please do ask. So what we're going to try and look at today is some of the technologies that will help you through, especially during these challenging times. And it's all about how we acquire our technologies. So many of us would choose different ways of getting technology. Maybe that's a recommendation from a friend. Maybe it's some advice. Maybe you are quite technologically savvy and you're quite comfortable over buying your own equipment. But having advice and having someone to rely on is very important too. Now, there's two ways that we can go. We can either go to retail, and we do sell a lot of our systems through our retailers and partners, and that's an interesting experience. In fact, Andy and I did some mystery shops a good few years ago, and we found it was a very varied experience, dependent on retailer and depending how busy the store was. And it's all about what they have in stock. That's what retail is. Essentially, they have things in stock that they want to sell to you. Now, that's one way of buying things. You will get a friendly ear, you'll have a nice, friendly staff member, but that staff member may not specialize particularly in that piece of technology. They may actually be in one section of the shop talking to you about selling what's in stock with them. And they may actually also cover washing machines, tumble dryers, everything else that's in that particular store. So maybe their knowledge might not be in the best place. Some of them are very knowledgeable. I won't take that away from them, but it isn't their dedicated role usually in retail. And as I said, they're probably trying to sell you something that they have available. And it might be that they've had several of them in stock and they want a promotion to push that week. So, what's the other route that you could take? Well, you can come directly to us, and we have a team of tech advisors. Now, these advisors can help guide you through the fog. It's their dedicated role to work out what the best solution is for you. Rather than just going for what's near and readily available, they have the whole portfolio of Dell technologies to hand, and they can pick out the right solutions and the right ideas for your particular operation and your business. And that is all about empowering your workforce, whether that be yourself or anyone else that you work with, because perhaps you have colleagues or some employees, and perhaps you're a large organization. Each person works in their own way with particular pieces of technology, and each person's needs are very much different. So what have we got going on here, Andy?
Well, I think it's really important, I think, from my point of view, to point out that one size will never ever fit all. Every user has unique requirements as far as technology goes. Now, if you're constantly on the move between countries or between towns and cities using public transport, flying, whatever you're doing, if you're a fully mobile operative, basically, the technology you require is totally different to someone who's using data intensive, maybe spreadsheets. They're sat at a desk and they require a much more powerful system to actually churn through that data and get through that workload. So what we've got here is basically in front of us, we have a central hub. Now that central hub would either be a cloud-based platform, so a cloud-based server sort of platform, or there's a physical server sat in the middle there. Now you don't really need to know about these technologies. What you need to know is what they're actually going to do for you. And what that central hub actually does for you as an organization or as a business is that it acts as your connectivity for your users, so you can share data across all your users. It acts as maybe a mail server, so all your mail and everything that comes into your organization is also stored there. Now this could be physical, as you can see on the black tower box device there, or it could be on the cloud base, like on a Microsoft 365 sort of scenario. It doesn't really matter. But then, there are much deeper conversations to be had. What are the benefits of cloud? What are the benefits of physical infrastructures? And again, the Dell Technology Advisors are there to talk you through this. Quite a scary sort of transition, especially if you're growing from 1 or 2 employees, scaling up to 5 to 10 and beyond. That's where that sort of central hub piece comes in there. And then around the edge, we've got all the different types of devices. And it doesn't just mean that you might have one of these devices. We could have multiple ones. So, we all check mails on mobile phones. I'm sure you do, when you wake up in the morning before you go to bed. Not a really great habit to be into, but, it's something that we do as individuals. We don't want to miss anything. But again, we have tower devices, we have the mobile laptop devices, and then the more commonplace nowadays are the convertibles and the sort of tablet stroke 2-in-1 devices, which give you a full sort of usability. We talk about consumption and creation in our workspaces, and basically, if you're more of a consumer of information, we talk about tablet devices, and if you're more of a creator, we talk about right to the high end of performance desktop sort of devices there. So yeah, that's what we mean when we talk about empowering the business and empowering the users. We talk about one size will not fit all, and you need some really solid advice to work out what your users require, and our Dell Technology Advisors will be able to do that for you.
And we have a whole host of different systems. Some of them are particularly suited for different usage again. So things like on the right-hand side of this image, you can see that we have a little desktop that actually fits nicely, neatly away behind the monitor stand and keeps it as a tidy solution, through to those convertible laptops that Andy talked about just a short time ago. And as well, we have a whole host of ecosystems surrounding it as well. Our displays are very important, especially just now, because as I'm working from home more often myself, I need a lot more desk space because we've got a lot more information to deal with and work with. So I'll use a little free tool that comes actually with our displays called Dell Display Manager. And that's just a little bit of software that I can slice up my screen into sections so that I can work in different documents in different ways at the same time, or even doing something like a broadcast like this through my editing software. So what other tools can really help us when it comes to our systems? It's all about trying to make sure the system works in the best way for us. So we have a little piece of software on board called the Dell Optimizer, and the Dell Optimizer just gives us lots of different advantages. In fact, we'll have a look at some of those just now.
So there's just a little snippet of the brand new Dell Optimizer. Now, it came about because there's only so much we can do with a physical build of a system. And we've been driven by consumerization now for the past few years. In fact, we've gone from quite a chunky looking device over the years to some of the slimmest and most sleek looking devices on the market. So Optimizer leads us on to a brand new way of thinking. That's where the faster and smarter comes into it. We make our devices faster and smarter by sort of putting a artificial intelligence on board that acts as like when I say this to Jason, it's like your personal assistant, Jason. What do you think? And tell us a little bit about one or two of the bits that are on board, Jason.
Yeah, so there's 4 key tenets within the Optimizer. The first one we come across is express response. Effectively, what it's looking at in that AI that Andy referred to is looking at ways of tweaking your system to run in the best way with the applications that you regularly use. So some of you may be using things like Photoshop for design and editing. It knows that you're going to use it at particular times, and it throttles the machine in the background to work in the best way with that application. It may be that you open your mail at a particular part of the day, so it will know and put that in place and put the wheels in motion for opening up something like Office 365, for example. Another great feature that we've found extremely useful, especially now that we are working from home, or we're maybe even working out, that we're allowed a little bit out to places like coffee shops, etc., is intelligent audio. And basically that enhances the performance for all those things that we're doing day to day now. We're quite often on calls with Zoom, Skype, Teams, etc., but you don't want to be hearing all the audio from the background. So it focuses in on that user and is able to actually make sure that they only take the audio information that's required rather than all the background noise in the area as well.
Excellent. And then it brings us on to Express Charge. Now, Express Charge is exactly what it says on the tin. If my device loses its charge over the period of the day, I can actually recharge it to 30% within 20 minutes and up to 80% within the hour. So it's a great function to have. Also, the system monitors the battery usage as well throughout the day, and basically keeps it ticking over just at that optimum level. Now, what that means to me and you is some of our brand new devices with this Optimizer technology on board will return you something in the region of 30 hours of battery life. So that's great if you're always on the move. My favorite, though, is definitely the Express Sign-In. So the Express Sign-In works with proximity sensors. So what happens is when I approach my device, whether I'm coming around from the side or creeping up from the back, it will notice that I'm around and wake up. When I sit down in front of it, the Windows Hello cameras on board will actually log me into my system, which means I haven't got to do anything. It just means my machine is ready and waiting for me to go at the beginning of the day. On the flip side of that as well, what happens is when I walk away from my machine, it will actually lock down, which means no prying eyes or anyone of my family can get onto my system and start video conferencing my customers, for example. So yeah, it's a great piece of technology. All 4 complement each other very well.
Yeah, but as I mentioned earlier, with tools like Express Response, it works with the applications that you use on a day-to-day basis. So some of us may be using our more standard things like working with social media, making our Zoom calls, doing all of those day-to-day bits. But some of us as well will be more performance users too. So things like the Adobe Suite or 3D Studio, anything that's in engineering and creative, or any of those complicated media editing tools. The thing is, it's about picking both the right system and the right pieces of software that go along with it for you to get the best experience. And that's, again, where the tech advisors can help and assist from there. The other major concern that we have in this current time is our security. In fact, there has been an increase in cyber attacks ever since the COVID-19 situation has happened to us. Anytime there's a big news briefing or something changes, we do actually see a spike and a change in trend of those security attacks. And the reason being, a lot of them is down to things like phishing attacks. So phishing attacks are those ones where they try and entrap you in by a very nicely worded email that may say something like, HMRC, the government wants to give you a tax return. And then, of course, in this current situation, people are a little bit more panicked. They're looking for news. They want to click through in something, and you may slip up and you may click through. So what we do is add a lot of security features on board our devices before you even get to the operating system. So right down at the core level of the system, or what we call the BIOS, which is the basic input and output of the system, before it goes to Windows, we can actually make sure that that is all secure, correct, and in place. So we have a thing called Safe BIOS, which is one of our main security features. And basically that does a virtual backup on the cloud, and it means that we can check the integrity of the BIOS before the system opens up. So you can be assured that it's proactively looking after your security, rather than what we'd normally find with things like antivirus. It's already too late. We've let something onto our device, but we have to then quarantine it and put it away in part of our drive. This protects us before we get to that stage. Another couple of features as well, we have our Safe ID, and that refers back also to what Andy was talking about our signing in and our login, using Windows Hello, for example, and just making sure that the right person is getting on board the machine. And last but not least is our Safe Screen. Safe Screen is a built-in physical privacy filter. And that just means, again, those environments that we're maybe out in the coffee shop, we're having our call, or we're maybe working some Excel documents that maybe have some private details or financials. We've got the Safe Screen in place there to protect us from those prying eyes. So yeah, what do we tie it around with? We surround it with a great package of support. So we have different grades and levels of support. What would be standard for you in retail is, well, you go back to the shop, you take the device back, and then they take it, they then send it back to the manufacturer, they look at it for whatever period of time, and that means the device has been out of your hands. Also could be a concern for many, again, bringing back to security, because your data's on board that device. That's not a scenario you want to find yourself in. So we have different layers of support that we can offer, and they can be Pro Support or Pro Support Plus. Now, what that means is that you're going to get an on-site next business day service. It means that engineers going to come to you rather than you having to send the machine back to us by post or anything like that. It gives you a bit more of a peace of mind. It means that your data isn't leaving your organization as well. And as well, we can have some extra features in our higher support levels. So things like Pro Support Plus, where we can do solutions where you can get to keep your hard drive. If you do need to send the device off, you can actually keep a hold of that. Or if an engineer has come on site, you get to keep the old hard drive. They're not trading it in and out. It just means that you can have peace of mind that that's very secure. What happens if we have some accidents, Andy, or to spill something? I've done that quite a bit actually since this lockdown. Cups of tea and coffee.
Yeah, you've just beat me to it there. I was just going to ask you the same question, but because I was going to ask it, I sort of know the answer now, which is quite good. Basically, we have accidental damage built into our Pro Support Plus, which is great, especially if you've got a touchscreen device such as a tablet or convertible laptop, because if you break that screen, it's a very expensive component to replace. And the chances are, because you are moving around the house, you're moving from different location to location, they're not going to be as secure as sat on a desk. So just having that extra bit of peace of mind, again, if you break it, if you drop it, if you spill something on it, next day the engineer will come out and put it all better for you, and off you go. No interruption to business, and that's where we want you to be. We want you to be uninterrupted and productive 24/7. And again, the tech advisors, the Dell Tech advisors, will be able to guide you through this decision about what support is needed for your own particular business.
Absolutely. And so there's another piece in this puzzle. One of the things that many of you have said that they found challenging, actually, and have spoken to a lot of people about this, was finding that the affordability of replacing equipment can be challenging. Technology is ever evolving. It gets faster and faster. In fact, our refresh cycles of the of different technology have increased year on year, so much so that, in fact, with the uptake of new systems this year, we've had to press ahead and go to a newer generation of model faster because of the uptake of technologies at home. So what can we do to help you with that? There's all sorts of solutions within here, and it comes under one banner of Dell Financial Services. Tell us a little bit about that, Andy.
Okay, yeah, so Dell Financial Services is part of the Dell technology umbrella, if you like. It's our own bank, and we have market-leading finance solutions. Now, there are two ways that we can look at financing different purchases, if you like. We can go down a standard lease route, which gives you sort of, I'd say, industry-leading, less than 2% rates on your purchases regarding any of our technologies, whether it be end-user devices or even infrastructure devices, sort of like the servers we just briefly looked at a little bit earlier on. But the most sort of popular system that's gathering a lot of momentum at the minute is the PC as a service route. Now, PC as a service sounds a little bit gimmicky, but for years and years, we've all been buying mobile phones on contracts and things like that. And that's basically what PC as a service is. Instead of actually buying it up front, you're renting it for a period of time. Now, what we can do is we can take the hardware, we can take the software, we can take the support, we can take some peripherals, we can take some more services if you like, and we can wrap it all into a single monthly payment per user. Now, we can do that over 3 or 4 years. If we do it over a 3-year period, it works out at 87% of total cost of ownership. So it's actually 13 points cheaper than buying it. Now, that's, in my sense, a no-brainer to actually think about a way to now fund your ongoing purchases. And plus the fact it puts it into OPEX and away from CAPEX, which again, for a lot of organizations is a great tool to have. If we take it to 4 years, it works out at 0%. So again, something to think about there. And again, it's a good way of looking at refreshing your technology on a regular basis, which unfortunately not enough organizations do. So we've provided you an awful lot of information regarding technology and routes to purchase in the last 20 or so minutes. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to actually switch over to the Dell Women's Entrepreneur Network. Now, I'm going to introduce you to 3 members of that network, Emma, Anna, and Jackie. And they're going to tell us a little bit of why they joined and what they get from the membership within that network.
I've been a member of Dwen for probably just about 2 years now, and it's been an eye-opener for me. I think before joining this network, I hadn't ever been in a room with more than 5 C-suite level executives, and suddenly I was with 150 people in a hotel conference center in Singapore, hearing amazing stories and just speaking very casually to a group of women who I barely knew existed, because in my day-to-day working, I'd probably come across 3 in the last 3 years, senior executives who were female. And that's no exaggeration. Within like my actual, within Alkira, through the networks, I've obviously met a lot more, and I can't overstate, in fact, let me get this right, the importance to me of being able to see someone who has had that success and who is stages further along, has managed to go past 100 people or close a Series B of fundraising, and can speak about how challenging that was while going through a pregnancy or whatever it may be, these huge life events that happen in the middle. And having that kind of being able to visualize what that looks like actually makes the biggest difference, because in my field, there aren't very many people to look up to who have gone that far. And I think it's hard to visualize yourself there if you can't see an example. So I think I really benefited from being able to see where people have gone before me, as well as, in fact, asking the silly small questions that you can try and have a bit of a Google, and you don't want to sound like an idiot who's asking something that's very outwardly sounds very simple, and just being able to have those conversations in a low pressure environment where it's a discussion, it's Chatham House rules. And I know of many, like you've got the PayPal mafia, that famous group of senior kind of guys over in San Francisco who invested in all the wonderful things first and then now have their own little network and secret groups. They're being able to be part of a group of women who are kind of similar, who've been through amazing kind of entrepreneurial journeys, and being able to answer those silly, easy questions that they wouldn't usually kind of deign to respond to on a day-to-day basis, but actually they're open and vulnerable and happy to discuss. That's been really helpful for me.
So I found that, in daily life, you have girlfriends who are supportive, of your relationships, whatever you're going through emotionally and stuff like that. But it's hard, maybe within a group of close friends or extended friends to relate in building a business, growing a team, growing, products and services, because they're not worried about those things. So that's not keeping them up in the middle of the night, how to get these things done. And so, Dwen is that place. It has the network of women who are either going through it or who have gone through it. So suddenly, it opens up opportunities to connect, as you said, with people who've faced similar struggles and are really there because they want to share their experience and or support with other like-minded entrepreneurial women. And I think the opportunity to be there to help other women too, to give something back from my experience and what I've learned, is really helpful too, because sometimes you don't realize what you do know that other people may not know, because you've lived it or had to go through that yourself, and that can be a really great opportunity. And I think it really brings the right people together, because everybody's joined because they have a similar mindset that they want to be there to help. So it's not like you're having to approach someone cold with a question or a request to connect. They're there because they already want to do this and they're motivated to do this. So I've been a member for 6 months, and have found those connections to be great. And I love learning from other people's experiences, but I also like the events and seminars and content that's shared as well. I found a lot of that really useful. But for me, like you say, it's that connection with the like-minded people who are willing to be vulnerable and share their experience. Or for me, it's always fun to offer your own advice, even if people don't take it, that's fine, but you can just share your perspective and experience, and maybe it gives them a better idea of how to implement something in their own company or in their life that they're trying to do.
Particularly with the Dwen.com platform that launched in February, I think it's just completely opened up the network to a whole different range and caliber of female entrepreneurs, which I'm really excited about. So I'm delighted to see it grow and expand the way it has. So I'm delighted that you're both getting something and also giving back in different ways to Dwen, which is brilliant. So thank you so much.
So that was a little bit of a teaser for our session on women in tech and what the future holds. That is on tomorrow. And thank you very much for your time and for joining us today. That's all from myself and Andy. We appreciate you popping along. If you have any questions, of course, pop them into the chat that we're having just afterward. Thank you.
Hi, this is Margaret, your Dell Technologies advisor.
There's an art to listening. It's the ability to hear more than what's being said, to understand the meaning in every pause, and to be able to offer the answers that make someone feel truly heard.
I understand. Let's get started.
That's what you get when you talk to a Dell Technologies advisor.